Good morning, Internet. I am Matt Buyak, and in this video, instead of solving a Project Euler problem as we usually do, I'd like to give you a little bit of background about myself, why I made this channel, and what my plans are for the future of this channel. So if you haven't seen one of my videos before, welcome. We're glad to have you. As I said a moment ago, I am Matt Buyak. My background is in computer science. I worked as a software engineer for 15 years in Silicon Valley, and now I make videos on math and programming subjects, specifically with a focus on this website, projecteuler.net. Now, I first started this channel back in 2020. It was the depths of the pandemic. I was, like you, many of you, stuck inside. My singing group wasn't meeting, and I was looking for a new creative outlet. And so I started this channel and covered the first 30 or so Project Euler problems in about 3 months, and then covered the next 10 problems in about 2 years. I guess I kind of neglected the channel for a little while there. Fast forward to this spring of 2023, and I found myself, shall we say, with unexpected free time, or as you might put it another way, without other professional obligations. And so I decided that once I got my living situation worked out, in order to keep busy and keep my skills sharp, I would make a goal of putting out a video every single day. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and it's been going really well. But then a couple things happened recently that made me reconsider my approach to the channel. And so that's the main thing that I wanted to share with all of you. The first thing that made me reconsider is this problem here, problem number 60, which I have been wrestling with for the last week. Now, don't get me wrong, problem 60 is a bit of a monster, but it's not as difficult as that timeline might suggest. I actually came up with the answer within about an hour or so of starting to look at it. But the problem isn't just coming up with the answer. It's, especially for an optimization problem like this, finding an approach that's guaranteed to find the best answer in a reasonable amount of time, even if you run it on 20-year-old hardware, which is when this problem was first published. Ideally, the solution is also simple and elegant and follows best practices and is not too difficult to explain to all of you so that it's understandable by the widest possible audience. In the past, the way I've made my videos is just to take a brief read over the problem statement, turn on the webcam, and give a verbal explanation, 5 to 10 minutes, as to how I'm going to approach the problem, and then jump right into writing some code. And then, within 30 minutes to an hour, I've got a video that's ready to upload. But with a problem like this, once you start making slides and visual aids and editing together multiple takes and that sort of thing, it goes from taking 30 minutes or an hour to make a video to 10, 20, sometimes even 30 hours to make a video, which makes it much more difficult, as you imagine, to put out a video every single day. And so I was kind of torn between 2 different possibilities. I could continue to put out a video every single day with the understanding that the quality might suffer somewhat, or I could slow down a bit, spend a little bit more time on each video, and try to put out some really high quality content. And the thing that ended up swaying my decision was the discovery, or perhaps rediscovery, of this policy down here. So I had forgotten about this, but apparently the policy is that we are prohibited from sharing answers to problems past problem number 100. Um, Now, I could make an entire video about my thoughts on this policy, so I'll try to keep my comments brief. Um, but I think that at best, this policy is irrelevant. A quick Google search will get you the answer to every single Project Euler problem if that's really what you want. In theory, you can have your account banned for sharing the answers to problems. I expect it takes about 5 minutes to create a new account. But worse than that, I think this policy is actually actively harmful to what I presume are the goals of the folks at Project Euler. In that, if your goal is to encourage interest and excitement about math and programming and logic, I think that this policy runs directly counter to that idea. When I think about the most successful and the most vibrant online communities that I'm a part of, they all have at their heart a huge amount of collaboration and information sharing. And this seems to really put a damper on that. Especially ridiculous, I find this line here: "Please do not deny others what you have so richly valued yourself." As if putting out videos of the kind that I usually produce is forcing people to watch them. Believe me, if I had that power, I think I would have far more subscribers than I currently do. But I actually see this the exact opposite way of what they have stated here, in that I think folks should be given the option to use videos like the ones I produce in whichever way best helps them to learn. For some folks, they'll go out and solve the problem themselves every single time and come back and watch my video to see how our solutions compare. Are they similar? Are they different? Other folks might watch the first 10 minutes and get some kind of hint and then go solve the rest of it themselves. Other folks will be completely stumped, and by watching my videos, they might learn some advanced topic in math or computer science that they weren't otherwise aware of. And so I think making videos of the kind that I do actually helps folks to learn this material and to get excited about these topics, rather than denying the opportunity to do so. So, needless to say, I disagree with this policy, but I do appreciate the folks at Project Euler. I certainly would like to stay in their good graces, and so currently, at least, my plan is to follow this policy, even though I disagree with it. I might see if I can get them to change or modify the policy, but at least for now, the plan is, once I get to problem number 100, that will be the end of my Project Euler series. Don't get me wrong, that does not mean that this will be the end of my YouTube channel. There's still plenty of material out there that would make for great content, and I'll get to all that in a moment. But for the immediate future, what this means is that there's no reason to rush through the next 40 problems, problems 60 through 100. Originally my goal was to put out a video for every single Project Euler problem. There's over 800 of them and counting, and so that would have taken several years, even at the rate of one per day. And so there was some amount of urgency to put out videos very regularly, but now if I only have 40 more problems left to cover, I would rather make those videos really, really good. And so I expect that rather than putting out a video every single day, it might be 2 or 3 days between videos. So that's something to expect going forward. Now, plans for the future. I think this is maybe the most exciting part. So eventually, as I mentioned, my Project Euler series will come to an end and we'll have to move on to something else. And I think the most natural choice, at least for me, is this website here, onlinejudge.org. I've already done one video from the site. It honestly didn't go very well. But this is sort of the OG online code competition website. While Project Euler has some 800 problems, this site, I actually don't know how many problems they have, but it's at least on the order of thousands, probably over 10,000 problems, I would say. And they tend to be more focused on programming and computer science and a little bit less on math, which was more the focus of Project Euler. And so that's good for me because I get to talk about more interesting computer science topics, along with solving these problems. And so I think that's definitely something that I'm going to look into. Another thing I really like about this site is that it actually allows you to submit your code to be evaluated. So Project Euler, you can kind of hack it sometimes if you manage to come up with the solution in a way that wasn't actually robust or wasn't actually correct. But with the Online Judge, you actually have to submit your code, and it will tell you whether it evaluates your code as being correct or not. And so I think the quality bar is a little bit higher for solving these problems as compared to Project Euler. So the other idea that I had for future content, in addition to doing these sort of code competition style problems, is to look at video games that have a programming aspect to them. I'm a huge video game nerd, and so I would love to be able to share some of the games that I'm aware of that have programming as part of them. And probably the greatest example of that I'm aware of is this game here, 7 Billion Humans. It's a pretty small game. I'm not sure how many sales it has. I expect most people have never heard of it. I discovered it back in 2020, and it's basically a puzzle game where in order to solve the puzzles, you have to program. It's kind of obfuscated. It's maybe not obvious to the average player that programming is what they're doing, but basically you have to give instructions to your 7 billion humans, or more typically like 7 humans, to go and complete some task for you. And I really like that the problems scale very nicely from being pretty simple and straightforward to being quite intricate by the time you get to the end of the game, but I wouldn't describe any of them as brutally difficult until you get into the optimization challenges. There are challenges where you have to optimize your code for code size or execution time, and some of those challenges can get very, very, very difficult, which means I love them. And so I'm hoping to share some of my solutions to puzzles from this game on the channel. The other idea that I had was to show some content from this game, Factorio, which some of you might be familiar with. Now, most of the game is involved with building a factory where you're trying to assemble a rocket to launch yourself into space, and is not particularly programming oriented, but there's a particular technology you can research called the circuit network that basically allows you to add programming to your factory. And so I thought I might look at some interesting use cases in the game of Factorio that involve programming. So I hope that you'll look forward to both of those things, in addition to the Project Euler and Online Judge content that I'm already producing. As always, if you haven't already, maybe consider subscribing if all of that sounds interesting to you. And I hope to see you in the next video.